This is a story about two strangers, ADIRA and ZANE, who meet under unusual circumstances. Both are seeking a moment of escape from their heavy lives. A spark ignites. One night of passion follows. They didn't exchange names, but fate has other plans. Sit back and find out as we dive into this beautiful story. On a stunning beachside in Diani at a charity gala, ADIRA Mwendwa, a stunning 28-year-old woman, she has a warm, caramel-brown complexion, almond-shaped, deep brown eyes, and full lips. Her natural hair is styled in a braided bun with a few tendrils loose. She wore a sleek maroon satin evening gown, and she was attending as her friend Rita's +1. And ZANE Karanja, a 38-year-old man, tall and commanding in a tailored black and gold African tuxedo, was the guest speaker of the event. He just finished giving a speech on corporate social investment, and was applauded by the crowd. He walked off stage, and he was clearly tired of being admired. ZANE and ADIRA locked eyes over cocktails. I didn't belong here. Not with these people. Not in this dress. But sometimes, fate doesn't care where you're from. ADIRA whisper. The chemistry was instant. Both were trying to escape something, ADIRA from her harsh realities, ZANE from constant pressure to settle down. ADIRA tries to get another drink. But the bartender ignores her, focusing on older elite women. She sighs. ZANE appears beside her. Nods. Try the Dawa cocktail. Locally made. Strong enough to silence the world, ZANE said. ADIRA smiled and said, silencing the world sounds like a luxury. He glances at her. Intrigued. Then tonight, let's pretend we can afford it, he said. They clink glasses. ADIRA asks, so what do you do, mystery man? Let's just say, I manage chaos. ZANE replied with a shrug. She said with a soft smile, sounds like something a politician would say. ZANE said with a laugh. Or a CEO who desperately wants to be invisible. She tilts her head. Then why come here at all? ADIRA asks. To forget who I am. Even if just for a night. He replied. They pause. Intense eye contact. What if we forget, together? She asks. That night, under the moonlight and waves, in the hotel room, there was a spark. They shared a passionate kiss, clothes on the floor. The passion is undeniable, yet laced with emotion neither of them expected. It was a passionate one-night stand. Where they didn't ask each other's names. No strings attached. Just escape. Sunlight pours in. ADIRA wakes up first. She stares at ZANE sleeping peacefully beside her. She softly smiles, then quietly gets dressed. She leaves behind a forgotten earring on the nightstand. I didn't even know his name. Just that it felt real. For once. She mumbled. ADIRA was back in the city, job hunting, and was rejected from one interview after another. She went back home to comfort her sick mother, and she had an argument with her troublesome younger brother David about his low grades. In her quiet moment she thought to herself, I couldn't afford to think about that night. Life doesn't care about memories when rent is due. 2 weeks later, in Karanja Group's lobby, ADIRA steps into the towering glass building, smartly dressed, resume in hand. Welcome to Karanja Group. You're here for the junior brand strategist interview, yes? The receptionist asked. ADIRA nods. Later in the boardroom she enters for the final group orientation with other new hires. The door opens. ZANE Karanja walks in, flanked by executives. He begins speaking to the group. Welcome to Karanja Group. I believe in innovation, results, and bold thinking. ZANE said, addressing the new recruit. ADIRA stares at him, stunned. It's him. He doesn't notice her, yet. And just like that, fate came knocking again, ADIRA whisper. Earlier that morning of her interview, ADIRA woke up in her cramped but tidy one-bedroom apartment in Nairobi. Soft light pours in through sheer curtains. The sound of matatus in the distance. ADIRA sits at a small table. Her laptop opens with job applications. She's in a simple blouse and head wrap, sipping black tea. Her face is tired but determined. David stood up from the mat he was sleeping on the floor. I'm not going back to that school, ADIRA. They treat me like I'm a criminal. He said, frustrated. She did not respond right away. You got caught cheating, David. ADIRA said angrily. David, with his defiant eyes, said, because you couldn't pay my fees on time. What was I supposed to do? She closes her eyes. She's exhausted. Later that day, ADIRA boards a matatu going for an interview at one of the companies she applied to, which she is unaware is Karanja Group Holdings, owned by the man she spent a night with weeks ago. She was squished between passengers in the matatu. ADIRA clutches her folder tightly. As she arrived at her destination, she saw a big billboard outside which read, Karanja Group, Empowering Africa's Future. Inside the Karanja Group's company lobby, ADIRA walks in slowly, wide-eyed. She takes in the marble floors, digital walls, and well-dressed employees. At the reception, a friendly assistant greets her. You're here for the junior strategist interview? The receptionist asked. ADIRA nods nervously. She smooths her blouse and takes a breath. Later in the interview room there were 3 panelists seated. One smiles encouragingly. Another looks at her resume, unimpressed. The first panelist asked, Why do you want to work here, Miss Mwendwa? Because I know what it's like to build something from the ground up. I may not come from privilege, but I know how to fight for results. ADIRA said calmly. There's a pause. The unimpressed one scribbles something. A few minutes later in the interview room, ADIRA walks out, tension still in her shoulders. She sighs. Her phone rings. It displayed an unknown number. As she picked up the call, she heard Rita screaming from the other end of the phone. Girl, check your email. Right now. ADIRA quickly opens it. As she opened her email, the first thing she read was the email subject. Welcome to Karanja Group Holdings, offer letter. She gasps. Oh my God. I got it. ADIRA smiling and whispering at the same time. Later that night in her apartment as she returns home, her mother, frail but kind-eyed, sits on the couch waiting for her. How was your day? Her mom asked. Better than yesterday. ADIRA replied, smiling softly. ADIRA holds her mom's hand and told her about her new job offer. She smiles softly. On ADIRA's first day at her new company, Karanja Groups, she walks into a room with several other new hires. She's dressed sharply, glowing with hope and nerves. She sits quietly, flipping through a company profile. As she was flipping through the company profile, her fingers paused at a name. ZANE Karanja, CEO and chairman. She freezes. Her face tightens. It couldn't be. Not him. Not here. ADIRA whispers. The door opens. There were sounds of footsteps walking into the meeting room. As she raised her head, she saw ZANE Karanja, the man she spent a night with weeks ago, walking in, flanked by executives. His in a sharp navy suit. Confidence. In command. He begins addressing the room. At Karanja Group, we believe in boldly changing the world. And we don't babysit. We build leaders. ZANE said. ADIRA stares at him. Her breath caught. You've got 3 months to prove you belong. Welcome on board. ZANE said, looking around the room. He makes eye contact with her for a brief second. Then move on. He doesn't recognize her. ADIRA's hands tremble under the desk. How could he not remember? That night changed my life. ADIRA mumbled. ADIRA rushes into the restroom and splashes cold water on her face. She takes a deep breath. A moment later, she walks into a stall to get a pregnancy test kit. As she got back to the company, she went straight to the restroom. She paused. After doing the test, she flushes the toilet and trashes the crumpled positive pregnancy test strip. In the evening at the Karanja Group's parking lots, ADIRA exits the building in slow motion, lost in thought. The city lights twinkling around her. The job I prayed for came with a twist I didn't see coming. ADIRA whispers. ADIRA woke up in her one-bedroom apartment. Rita, her best friend who spent the night with her, was still lying on the bed. She walked straight to the bathroom to retake the pregnancy test again for the 3rd time. ADIRA was staring at the bathroom mirror while holding the pregnancy test kit in her hand. That's number 3, isn't it? Rita asks, half asleep. ADIRA walks out of the bathroom in silence. dazed. A minute later in the kitchen, Rita was sipping her tea, watching ADIRA like a hawk. "You're pregnant by a tuxedo guy, aren't you?" Rita asked. ADIRA replied, quietly, "I didn't plan for this. Life never takes appointments, babe. It just shows up with receipts." Rita said, comforting her. They sit in silence. Rita reaches out and grabs her hand. Rita asks, "So, what are you going to do?" Later that day, ADIRA walks into a hospital maternity wing. She meets with a nurse to confirm the pregnancy officially. She walked into the consultation room to speak with a doctor. "You're around 6 weeks. Healthy. But you'll need support. Emotional and physical." The doctor said. ADIRA nods slowly, trying to hold it together. The following day, ADIRA walks into the office, distracted. She can barely focus. ZANE passes by, glancing at her, almost sensing something. ZANE asks his assistant, "Who's that in the new strategy cohort?" The assistant replied, "ADIRA Mwendwa. From Mombasa." He nods. Doesn't connect the dots yet. At night in her apartment, ADIRA is sitting in the dark. Bills on the table. A hospital invoice. Her mom coughs in the background. David walks in, furious. David said, facing ADIRA, "I got suspended again." ADIRA lashes out angrily at David. David slams the keys down and said, "Don't worry. I'll drop out. Since you can't keep up." She slaps the table. ADIRA, with a sad tone, said, "I'm doing my best. This job, this pregnancy, I'm drowning." He freezes. "You're pregnant?" David asked, shocked. There was a long silence. The next morning at the Karanja Group's company, ADIRA paces the stairwell during lunch, holding her phone. She dials his number. Then she ends the call. She tries again. Then deletes ZANE's number from the screen. Suddenly, ZANE appears at the top of the stairs. "Everything all right?" ZANE asks. ADIRA freezes. He said, "You look like you've seen a ghost." ADIRA, in a small voice, said, "I need to talk to you." A moment later, they walk to a quiet corner at the roof parking deck. She's shaking. He looks genuinely concerned. ADIRA said, quietly, "We met a few weeks ago. In Diani. Charity gala." ZANE stiffens slightly, processing. ZANE in a soft tone, he said, "That was you." She nods. And said, "I didn't expect this either. But I'm pregnant." His face goes blank. He stares at her for several seconds. "And you're sure it's mine?" ZANE asks. There was a hard silence. Her eyes darken. ADIRA said with a harsh tone, "I didn't come to ask for money. I came because it's the truth." She walks away, tears threatening to fall. He watches her, stunned and conflicted. ZANE stayed late in his office thinking of the news he received in the afternoon. He stares at his city view, with the untouched whiskey in his hand. His assistant knocks. The assistant asks, "Sir, board briefing tomorrow." ZANE replied without hesitation, "Cancel it. Postpone everything." He picks up his phone. He looked at ADIRA's profile on his company system. He was silent. In ADIRA's apartment, she lies in bed, staring at the ceiling. Her phone buzzes. The text on screen was from ZANE. "We need to talk again. Soon." She turns the phone face down. "I've never been lucky with men. Never been chosen. So this time, I'll choose me." ADIRA whispers. Later that night in ZANE's apartment, ZANE sits alone, scrolling through photos from the gala. He zooms in on one blurry image, a side profile of ADIRA laughing at the bar. He exhales deeply. Then he dials his assistant's number. As the line connected, he told his assistant, "Find everything you can on ADIRA Mwendwa." Quietly. At the company's cafeteria, ADIRA sits at a corner table, trying to eat. Whispers ripple through the room. One of the co-workers at the table eating with a low voice said, "She's the girl from the gala, right? CEO's flavor of the month." And the other co-worker replied, She's pregnant, apparently. I heard his denying it. ADIRA clenches her fork. She stood up and walks out of the cafeteria with her head high. ZANE was in his office reviewing ADIRA's file that was given to him by his assistant from the background investigation he did. It was stated in the file that she's from Mombasa, from a single-income family. Her mother was recently hospitalized, her brother has a school disciplinary record, and her apartment is at Eastlands. He sets the file down. He looks troubled. Just then, his mother, Mama Lydia, enters unannounced. I assume you've seen the blog post. Mama Lydia said. And she tosses her phone on his desk. On the phone screen, what was displayed was a blog headline. CEO ZANE Karanja allegedly impregnates new employee. ZANE said, quietly, it's not public yet. Mama Lydia replied with an angry face. Oh, but it will be. And you will kill it. Whatever it costs. ADIRA sits with Rita in her apartment later that night. Her phone rings again. It's ZANE. Rita said to ADIRA. You should answer. ADIRA replied. He didn't believe me. Now the world's watching. You're not just fighting for you anymore. Rita said. ADIRA hesitates, then picks up ZANE's call. ZANE and ADIRA agreed to meet privately that night at a private hotel suite. As they both arrived at the hotel, ZANE had already booked a VIP area for them to have a private discussion about the pregnancy. ZANE said, I'll take care of the baby. I'll cover medical costs. I'll make sure your job is safe. ADIRA, cutting him off, this isn't a business deal, she said. ZANE replied, I'm trying to do the right thing. Then believe me. And don't control me. She said. ZANE asks ADIRA, do you want to keep the baby? She looks away. And she said, I don't know what I want. But I know I'm not disappearing. At the Karanja estate, Mama Lydia hosts a formal dinner with Naima Waffler, ZANE's ex. Mama Lydia and Naima were having a conversation over dinner while ZANE was not present. She said, you're what this family needs. Not some broke girl with a scandal attached. Naima, with a serene smile, said, I'm always ready to fix what's broken. They sipped their wine in silence. The following morning at the office hallway, ZANE intercepts ADIRA walking to a meeting. ZANE said to ADIRA, we need a proper conversation. After you fact-checked my entire life. ADIRA said with a cold expression, and she walks away. ZANE watches her go, and his jaw clenches. Later that night at ADIRA's apartment, a black car pulls up outside. ADIRA opens the door. It's Mama Lydia. She walks in without invitation, in a cold regal. Mama Lydia said in a cold tone, my son may be confused, but I am not. Whatever this is, it ends now. She opens a briefcase and places a thick envelope on the table. Mama Lydia continued. 5 million shillings. This is sufficient for you to begin anew. Disappear. No drama. No headlines. ADIRA, with her voice trembling, said, I don't want your money. Mama Lydia replied, then take it for the child. Because if you stay, I'll destroy you. ADIRA stares at her, furious but silent. That same night at ZANE's apartment, ZANE gets a message text from ADIRA, your mother came to my house. Next time, she won't leave so kindly. ZANE stares at the message. He was furious. Still that same night in ADIRA's bedroom, ADIRA opens her wardrobe. Inside was the envelope Mama Lydia left. The envelope still remains unopened. They all want me gone. But I'm done running. ADIRA whispers. She closes the wardrobe and stares at her reflection in front of the mirror. She looks strong, steady, pregnant. It is a new day at Karanja Groups. ADIRA arrives at work. As she walks from the elevator to her desk at the strategy department floor, there are gauntlets of side eyes and fake smiles. A few whisper audibly as she passes. Employee 1 said in a low voice. She jumped off the ladder, didn't she? I'd sleep with the boss too if it came with a promotion. Employee 2 replied. She reaches her desk and finds a sticky note. With the word written boldly, CEO's pet. She crumples it, her breath trembling. She looks around. And no one meets her gaze. In the boardroom that same morning, ZANE sits with HR, the head of strategy, and legal counsel. ZANE had a discussion with all the heads of the department and said, "I'm transferring ADIRA Mwendwa to the CSR department. I'll oversee her development personally." "Sir, wouldn't that fuel the rumors?" HR director asks. ZANE, with a firm tone, said, "Two don't run this company on gossip. I run it on performance. That's my final word." They nod. As there was a skeptical glance that lingered. In the CSR office, ADIRA walks into her new office. It is smaller but quiet and private. Rita barges in minutes later. Rita, whispering fiercely, said, "That looks like damage control from upstairs. He says it's to protect me. But it feels like hiding me." ADIRA said. Rita said with a low voice, "Girl, this isn't protection. This is how powerful men keep their mess convenient." In the Karenga Group lobby that evening, Naima Waffler strides into the building, her heels clicking, dressed like she owns the company. The receptionist gave her a standing ovation. The receptionist, talking to Naima with a smiling face, said, "Ms. Waffler, we weren't expecting." Naima replied, smiling, "Of course not. But I don't wait for invitations." She heads straight for the elevator. Moments later in ZANE's office, ZANE looks up as Naima enters. "You're not welcome here," ZANE said. Naima, with a smile, replied, "Oh, darling. I've never needed an invitation to come clean up after your scandals." She sits unbothered, crossing her legs. She said, "Rumors are everywhere. Board members are panicking. Your mother called me. She wants this handled." ZANE said, "I already handled it." "I doubt she agrees. And neither will the board when they realize your mistress now handles your charity fund." Naima said. ZANE was tense. Late at night in ADIRA's apartment, ADIRA was visibly exhausted. She tried to cook but vomited halfway through. Rita helps her into bed. ADIRA, in a low, weak voice, said, "I'm not built for this, Rita. I'm not built for this war. You're already in it. So you either lie down, or you armor up." Rita said. The next morning at Karenga Group's, ZANE was addressing executives in the boardroom. Naima is seated across the table, watching quietly. ZANE, in a steel voice, said, "Let's clear the air. ADIRA Mwendwa is not my mistress. She's a capable strategist. Her private life is none of your concern." A silence follows. Naima, slyly, asks, "And what about your private life, ZANE? Are you denying the child?" ZANE pauses and replied, "No, but I won't let my child's existence be weaponized. That's the line." Executives gasp and murmur. In the Karenga Group parking lots later that evening, ZANE waits for ADIRA by her car. She sees him and freezes. ZANE said to ADIRA, "I told them the truth. About the baby. Did you tell them about me? Or just about your role in all this?" ADIRA asks. "I told them I won't let them shame you. Or use you. Or bury this like it's a scandal," he said. ADIRA said in a low voice, "Then stop protecting me like a liability. Stand with me. As a partner. Or stay out of my way." She drives off. Later that night in Naima's apartment, she pours herself a wine and opens her laptop. On the screen of her laptop was a document saved with anonymous tip, ZANE Karanja employee scandal, and an attached doctored image of ADIRA entering ZANE's apartment at night. After looking at the document for a while, she smirked. And then she hits the send button on her laptop to upload the document online. That same night in ADIRA's apartment, ADIRA receives a call from an unknown number. She picked up the call, and when the line connected, she heard a man's voice from the other end of the line. Before she could talk, the mysterious caller spoke. "Good evening. I am journalist VO Ms. Mwendwa, would like your comment on the leaked photo and alleged affair with CEO ZANE Karanja," he said. She hangs up the call, her heart pounding. She whispered, They came for my silence. But I'll give them something louder. And she went ahead and opened her laptop. The camera lingers on her determined face. While you are still watching, please click on the subscribe button to subscribe. In the morning from a radio station, a scandal segment is live on air. The host VO said. Anonymous sources confirm that ZANE Karanja, CEO of Karanja Group, impregnated an employee after a brief encounter. The woman, ADIRA Mwendwa, is reportedly refusing a payout. ADIRA was inside a matatu going out, and she noticed people were looking at her sideways. She saw her photo on someone's phone screen and was surprised. She gets down before her destination. ADIRA's flashback to the time when she was still dating her ex-boyfriend. ADIRA was 22 years old at that time while she was living with her ex-boyfriend Brian. One day she came back home and hurriedly packed her belongings. As she was about to head out, Brian blocks the door. Brian said to ADIRA, "You're not leaving me just because your life is falling apart. No, I'm leaving because you keep making it worse." ADIRA replied. He slaps the wall beside her. ADIRA thought to herself and said, "Every man I trusted left bruises. Words, fists, silence. It all hurt the same." In the present day, in ADIRA's apartment, Rita came over to spend the night with her. She helps her delete hateful messages from her socials. Rita said, "You're trending. Unfortunately. I'm not even angry anymore. Just numb." ADIRA said, "Don't let them decide your worth." Rita said. ADIRA replied, "I already did. When I stayed quiet." ZANE was working late that night. He looked through an old box. Photos of a woman, Megan, his ex-fiancée. Laughing, smiling. Mama Lydia walks in. Mama Lydia said to ZANE, "Still grieving ghosts?" ZANE replied, "You want me to be a machine. No grief. No guilt. Just power. I want you to lead without your wounds leaking all over your legacy," she said. She throws a file on his desk. "Marry Neymar. Or lose the board." "Mama Day," she said with a commanding voice. He looks up, eyes burning. The next morning in Karanja Groups, ADIRA arrives at the company. She opens her locker to find a printed photo of herself with Home Wrecker written across it. She tears it down. Look directly at the woman who pinned it. ADIRA confronting the woman. "You want to shame me? Try doing it to my face," she said. Gasps ripple. No one says a word. She walks away, with her head held high. At night in ZANE's apartment, ZANE stares at a half-written resignation letter. His hand trembles. His assistant enters. Neymar's been lobbying the board. They're considering a leadership shift. The assistant said. ZANE replied, "I'm not going anywhere." He tears the letter in half. In the evening, ADIRA visits her ailing mother. Her mother reaches out. "I made you too strong. You hide too much." ADIRA's mom said. ADIRA replied with a soft smile. "I'm tired of hiding." ADIRA's mom, with a soft smile, said. "Then stop. Tell your story. Your way." ADIRA looks at her. Something shifts in her expression. It was purposeful. Late at night a reporter opens an email. With the subject, "Response to the scandal." She opened the attachment and found a video message. At the same time, in ADIRA's living room, she sits in front of her phone. A single light shines on her. ADIRA talking to the camera, online. "My name is ADIRA Mwendwa. I work, and I love my job. I carry a child I never planned for, but now fiercely protect." While ADIRA was live online streaming, ZANE was watching the video at that time and was stunned. Mama Lydia was also watching and was fuming. While the public was reacting, some in support, while others were cruel with their comments. Neymar slammed her phone down with anger. ADIRA talking on her live online stream. "I didn't seduce power. I survived it. And now I refuse to be erased." In the boardroom the next morning, ZANE walks into the boardroom. Everyone was staring and whispering as he walked in, as they have all seen the video trending online. One of the board members said. "She spoke like a leader." "She is." ZANE replied. He sits down, firm and unapologetic. ZANE said to the board, "If protecting my child and her mother is a scandal, I'll wear it proudly." The next morning in Karanja groups, there was a large-screen TV replaying ADIRA's video from last night. A few employees nod respectfully, while others scoff. Co-worker 1 said, "She's bold, I'll give her that." Co-worker 2 snide and said, "Bold doesn't mean she belongs here." Naima was standing in the background, watching the staff's reactions to the video, while she was smiling to herself. That same morning in ZANE's office, ZANE was looking over security reports. While he heard a knock on his door, David pushes the door open and enters. "ADIRA's brother?" ZANE asked. "You asked to see me?" He said. David said to ZANE, "You want to help my sister, then protect her from people like your mother." ZANE was surprised and asked, "ADIRA told you?" "She didn't have to. I know a threat when I see one." David said. ZANE eyes the teenager's defiance. He sees himself in him. Something shifts. Later in the strategy department floor, ADIRA reviews documents for a charity campaign. Her work is mysteriously missing from the server. ADIRA nervously asks, "Where's my file? I saved it last night." A colleague replied to her, "It wasn't there this morning. Maybe you forgot." She looks suspiciously at her colleague. And she smirks. In Mama Lydia's residence that afternoon, Mama Lydia meets with a lawyer. A slim, shark-like man in a fitted suit. Mama Lydia said to the lawyer, "I want her discredited. Quietly and legally." The lawyer replied, "She's not married to your son. She has no claim. Find a weakness. Her brother, her past, anything." She said. In the Karanja Group's basement server room later that afternoon, Naima enters with a flash drive. She plugs it in and replaces a key campaign file. On screen, it displays Revised Budget Report, ADIRA Mwendwa. She smiles as she walks away. In the boardroom the next day, ADIRA presents the charity budget to the CFO. The CFO flips the pages of the document provided by ADIRA, his eyes narrowing. The CFO said, "These numbers are off. Your projections are inflated. We could face fraud accusations." He gasps, ripples. One of the board members said, "She represents your name, ZANE." ADIRA stares, blindsided. "I didn't touch those numbers." ADIRA said. Naima, in a soft voice, said, "Maybe you're just overwhelmed." ZANE glares at her. Moments later in ADIRA's office, she sits and breathes shallowly. She feels humiliated. ZANE enters. "I know you didn't do it. IT is tracing the edits." ZANE said. ADIRA asks in a sad voice, "Why does this keep happening? Why is it always me against the world?" ZANE said in a gentle voice, "Because you're a threat to people who only win by controlling the story." He kneels beside her. "And you're changing the story," he said. In Naima's apartment later that night, Naima pours herself a wine. There was a knock on her door. She opens the door. "It's Mama Lydia." Naima said surprisingly. "Didn't think we'd ever be on the same side." "We're not. But the girl is too dangerous," Mama Lydia said. Naima smiles and said, "Then let's break her." In ADIRA's apartment that same night, ADIRA checks on her mom, then sits beside David. David said to ADIRA, "You always took care of me. Maybe it's time someone takes care of you." She looks at him, grateful and overwhelmed. Then, there was a knock on the door. She went to open it. To her surprise, reporters are all outside her apartment. One of the reporters, with his camera crew, asks, "Miss Mwendwa, is it true you falsified financial records at Karanja Group?" ADIRA slams the door angrily and pissed. In ZANE's office the next morning, the IT team confirms that the document ADIRA worked on and submitted at the board meeting was being tampered with. IT Tech said to ZANE. Edits came from Naima's login. At 3:12 a.m. ZANE leans back, face unreadable. ZANE said with a straight face, "Shut her out of every project. and call a board meeting. In the morning at the Karanja groups, all the board members were summoned for an urgent board meeting in which the entire board was present. ZANE stands at the head of the table, addressing the board regarding the charity budget document that was sabotaged during the last board meeting. I called this meeting to address the recent sabotage of the CSR budget led by Naima Wafula. He said. They gasp and ripple. Naima keeps her poker face. ZANE continued. This wasn't a mistake. It was a targeted attack to discredit ADIRA Mwendwa, the mother of my unborn child. And I will not stand for it. The room falls silent. ZANE, calm but cold, said. I'm drawing the line. Either we lead with integrity or I walk. During lunchtime in the office, Rita barges into ADIRA's office. Rita is so pissed. Your face is everywhere. Again, she said. ADIRA opens her phone and sees a blog headline. ZANE Karanja's baby mama, linked to fraud, poverty, and ex-convict brother. ADIRA whispers her brother's name. David. At the same time in David's school, David is dragged into the headmaster's office. He's shown the article. The headmaster said to David, your family has become a distraction. You're suspended pending further notice. David storms out of the headmaster's office. Moments later at the Karanja groups, ADIRA storms in, angry and near tears, to ZANE's office. ADIRA said to ZANE, you said you'd protect us. My brother just got suspended. My past is splashed across headlines. This is protection? She asks. This is war. And in war, people get wounded. He said. ADIRA, furious. I didn't sign up for war. I signed up for survival. She said. And she walks out of ZANE's office. At night in Naima's apartment, Mama Lydia came to visit Naima. Naima smashes a wine glass on the floor. Furious. He picked her. Over everything. Over me. She said angrily. Mama Lydia doesn't flinch. Mama Lydia said. I warned him. Now we respond. How far are we willing to go? Naima asks. Mama Lydia with a cold expression. All the way, she said. That same night ADIRA was rushed into the hospital, fainting from stress and pregnancy complications. Doctor said to ADIRA, you need rest. And peace. Or you could lose this baby. She lies on the bed, pale and alone. At that same time of the night, Mama Lydia was already back to her house from her visit to Naima. ZANE barges in. ZANE said to his mom. She was hospitalized. Your press leaks. Your blackmail. You almost killed her. Mama Lydia with a cold expression. She's a distraction. You have a company, a legacy, she said. ZANE shouting. She's not a distraction. She's the only truth I've had in years. He said with a strong tone. Mama Lydia, softly, said. Then you're weaker than your father. ZANE's jaw tightens. His voice drops. ZANE replied. Then it ends here. You're no longer part of my life. Or my business. He walks out of the house. Mama Lydia's face stays composed. But her hand trembles slightly. The next morning in ADIRA's apartment, ADIRA is back home from the hospital. She is lying in bed. David sits beside her, guilt written across his face. I should have stayed off social media. I should have protected you. He said. ADIRA replied. You're a teenager. This isn't your war to fight. David, softly, said. You keep saying that. But we're all already in it. He takes her hand. That same morning at the Karanja group's lobby, ZANE walks in. The paparazzi swarm him. One of the reporters asks. ZANE, are you officially in a relationship with ADIRA Mwendwa? He pauses. And faces the cameras. ZANE replied. She's the mother of my child. The strongest woman I know. That's all I'll say. He walks away from the paparazzi, unapologetic. Later that night in ADIRA's living room, Rita was around to take care of her friend. She plays the video clip of ZANE's interview with the paparazzi during the day for ADIRA. She watches ZANE's words. She was in silence. He chose you. Even if it costs him everything. Rita said. ADIRA replied. I didn't ask to be chosen. I just want peace. Rita said. You might never get peace. But now, you've got power. ADIRA looks at her belly and gathers herself together. The next morning in the Karenga Group's main lobby, the big TV screens were showing breaking news. Leaked medical report suggests ADIRA Mwendwa may have lied about pregnancy timeline. The crowds whisper. Phones buzz. As ADIRA enters, all eyes are on her. Her steps are slow but steady. At that same time in the newsroom, a smug tabloid editor watches reactions flood in. The story's viral. Neymar and Mama Lydia were also in the company's newsroom early that morning monitoring the online viral news. As Neymar was watching the viral news online, she smirked and said, "You can paint a woman with a lie, and let the world sharpen the knives." Neymar and Mama Lydia smile softly and clink their wine glasses. At night in ADIRA's apartment, Rita slams her laptop shut. Rita was furious. They're saying you faked everything. Even the baby, she said. ADIRA stares at a framed sonogram on the wall. ADIRA replied. Let them talk. Rita calls out her name. ADIRA. ADIRA was quiet. No more hiding. No more silence, she said in a low voice. She picks up her phone. The next morning in the Karenga Group, ZANE storms into the boardroom, throwing papers on the table. ZANE was furious. That report was fake. Illegally obtained. And used to discredit an employee, he said. He looks at Neymar. She blinks, emotionless. ZANE continued. Legal has traced the leak to your assistant. Neymar, coolly, replied. Assistants can be reckless. I'll deal with it. I already did. You're suspended. Effective immediately. He said with a cold and straight face. She gasps. Neymar rises, and she smirks. You chose her. Let's see how long she stays standing. She said. And she walks out of the boardroom. At night ADIRA has flashbacks to months earlier, after the gala party. When she learns she's pregnant. She was alone. And scared. The doctor said to ADIRA. You're 6 weeks pregnant, and would you like to contact the father? No. Not yet. She replied. Back to present day. ADIRA replays the memory, breathing deeply. The next morning in the media room, ADIRA was escorted by Rita and David. She walks into the media studio to speak up for herself and fight back the viral rumors that have been trending online about her and her baby. The camera crew was ready. Rita adjusts her mic. David gives her a thumbs up. Let's clear the air. Rita said. During the live broadcast, ADIRA sits in front of the camera. Composed and calm. ADIRA, the host, said. Lies don't scare me anymore. I've been lied about, lied to, and lied on. But this is my story. She takes out the real medical records. I'm pregnant. Truthfully. And proudly. I never needed pity. Just respect. She said. ZANE was in his office watching the live broadcast. Mama Lydia narrowing her eyes as she watches the live broadcast. Neymar was fuming in a parking garage as the live broadcast was playing on her tablet. While women across the city were cheering for ADIRA. I am not a mistake. I am not a secret. And neither is my child. ADIRA said proudly. The next day in the Karenga Group boardroom, the board reviews stock trends. The CFO said. Public sentiment is rallying. Brand trust is recovering. The chairman replied. All from one woman telling the truth. They all look at ZANE. Chairman, continued. If she ever wants a seat at this table, I will give it to her. In ZANE's apartment that night, he opens the door. And ADIRA was standing there. ZANE said. You didn't have to come. She replied. I didn't. I chose to. ADIRA continued. I won't let anyone write my story again. Not even you. He nods. So where does this leave us? ZANE asks. ADIRA said, softly. On the same page. But not the final chapter. They stand there, neither lovers nor enemies. Just the truth. In Mama Lydia's house that same night, Mama Lydia receives a letter. A legal one. The lawyer said. This is a formal notice that ZANE Karanja has removed your access to all trust operations, shares, and board privileges. She crushes the paper slowly. Mama Lydia whispers. This isn't over. Very early in the morning, ZANE drove down to ADIRA's apartment to take her to the hospital for her maternity appointment. ADIRA lies on a hospital bed. Her eyes are closed. Machines beep steadily. ZANE sits beside her, his head bowed. Doctor said to ZANE. Stress-induced hypertension. She needs complete rest. And emotional stability. Or she could lose the baby, and her life. Hours earlier at Eastland Street, ADIRA walks with David after a late-night pharmacy run. A black car screeches to a stop. Masked men jump out of the car and try to attack them. David pushes ADIRA out of the way. The masked men flash their knife at ADIRA and David. They struggle and shout for help. David was able to defend himself and his sister. The masked men flee after a long time of struggle with David. But David lies bleeding on the sidewalk. ADIRA screams. Late at night in ZANE's apartment, he gets a call from ADIRA about what happened to David. He rushes out of his house to the hospital. Nurse said to ZANE. She's safe. But her brother is in critical condition. We're trying our best. ZANE accelerates into the night. That night at the hospital waiting area, ZANE arrives. Rita was already at the hospital. She sobs quietly. ADIRA is in a private room. He stares through the glass, watching her sleep. Rita, softly, said. She doesn't know if David's going to make it. ZANE, broken. I failed them both. He said. At that same time in Mama Lydia's study, she paces as a man in dark clothes hands her an envelope. She opens it. It was photos of the attack. Their faces. And license plate. Mama Lydia said to the man. I said sabotage, not bloodshed. The man replied. Maybe someone else gave a different order. She pauses. Cold dread in her eyes. In ZANE's office the next day, ZANE faces Naima. Did you send them? Were you trying to scare her? ZANE asks. Naima smirked. You think I'd stab someone over you? She said. And she laughs bitterly. Naima continued. I didn't send them. But if she's smart, she'll leave before the baby has your name. ZANE's hand clenches into a fist. At the hospital later that day, David wakes up. ADIRA rushes to his side. David said to ADIRA in a weak voice. You always said no man was worth dying for. She cries into his hand. I was wrong. Some people are worth living for. ADIRA said with tears in her eyes. That evening in ZANE's family estate, Mama Lydia sits alone when ZANE enters. ZANE said to his mom. I know you didn't order the attack. But you've created the world where it happened. Mama Lydia was quiet. I was trying to protect our legacy, she said. ZANE replied. You've already lost it. He places a sealed envelope on her table. ZANE continued. My resignation. From the Karanja board. And from everything tied to your name. She freezes. At the rooftop garden, ADIRA stands overlooking the city skyline. ZANE joins her silently. For a while, they just breathe. ZANE said to ADIRA. I'm walking away from the company. You loved it. She said. ZANE said with a soft smile. I love something more now. Someone more. He looks at her stomach. Then at her. If you'll have me. I want to build something new. From scratch. With you. ZANE said. She becomes emotional. ADIRA replied. No more running. No more protecting me. Just walk beside me. That's all I need. He nods. They hold hands. Later that week at the hospital, ADIRA was laughing during a sonogram. While David is recovering and playing video games with Rita. ZANE was signing incorporation papers for a new foundation in his mother's name. One focused on mothers, children, and second chances. Mama Lydia was watching from afar. She was alone, touched but distant. Naima was burning a folder labeled Karanja Private Holdings. Months later, in the delivery room, ADIRA screams through labor. ZANE was in the delivery room with her, holding her hand. After several hours of labor, they heard the sound of a newborn's cry. They both sob. Doctor, smiling. It's a girl. ZANE kisses ADIRA's forehead. ZANE, softly, said, "Welcome to the world, little warrior." ZANE was overjoyed. They both agreed to name their daughter Zoria Karanja. Mama Lydia visits the hospital. She holds her granddaughter and whispers, "She has your fire." A week later, after Zoria's birth, ZANE returns to face the board, but he surprises them with a bold move. He steps down temporarily and hands over to his trusted deputy. ZANE and ADIRA sitting quietly at home, with their baby between them. He says, "This isn't how I planned life. But I'm glad fate didn't listen to me." They both chuckle. At night in the dark office, Naima hands a flash drive to a mysterious investor. Naima bitter and furious. They think it's over. But the real game is just beginning, she said. This story teaches us to never run away when there is a problem. Instead, stand and fight. What do you think about this story? Please share your thoughts in the comment section below. I will really love to read from you. And if you want a continuation of the story, comment part 2. Also, there's another interesting story I will be uploading in just a few days, so don't forget to subscribe to my channel and turn on your notification bell so you'll be the first to know when it drops. Here is the big lesson. One careless decision or action can change one's life forever. Every bad decision or action has a consequence. If you enjoy this story, please hit the like button and share with your friends. Let more people be inspired by stories like this. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you always. See you in the next story.